and still negatives are shipped out for processing daily. Motion picture to Pearl Harbor and photos to Guam. This day would be no different.
The film that Rosenthal shot was flown back to Guam. It got back there probably the same day it was shot. It was processed that day.
By contrast, Bill Janoust's 16mm footage would take nearly 10 days to be processed. For Joe Rosenthal, the quick turnaround thrusts him into stardom and relentless controversy well before he or anyone else on Iwo knew it.
We were fed radio accounts of whatever news was being broadcast about what we were doing in the fighting. And they started talking about this terrific picture of the flag raising. We all looked at each other. What the hell were they talking about? You know, terrific picture, flag raising. So this piqued the curiosity of Lou Lowry.
Lou Lowry had taken the image of the first flag raising.
He couldn't understand why a second photo going up would get all this acclaim. And he was a little upset about it. He said, something's wrong with this. He said, that's got to be a phony picture of some sort. He said, I can't believe it. And by that time, other people, even in the industry, were calling it a phony picture because they believed it was a setup. They believed Rosenthal set that picture up.
Suddenly, this one image becomes a subject of scrutiny. Norm left the fighting on Iwo for Pearl Harbor, where he was called into the commandant's office.
And he said, Gunner, he said, tell me, what is the story about the two flags? Well, I told him the story, and I said, the second flag was put up because the first one was too small, and I said, I sent two people up to cover a second flag raising, not knowing there was going to be one, actually, but Bill Janoust, Staff Sergeant, one of my photographers, was up there and shot right alongside of Rosenthal. And I said, he's got motion pictures of it.
Bill's 16mm footage, shot standing side by side with Rosenthal, clearly shows it was not a staged photo op.
So I think it was a product of two things, ignorance and cynicism. The ignorance of those who didn't know what actually went on, and the cynicism of those who simply assumed that such an image, well, it must be staged, it must be manipulated by some puppet master in the Office of War Information or wherever else. This couldn't have actually happened. Well, indeed it did.
And the images are unlike any before it.
Well, you see the guy straining to get it up. It was heavy. You see this in the way the hands are, and the way the guys are focused, the way they're bent down, and the creases in their trousers, and all of that.
FDR saw the image, and he knew it was definitely gold, publicity gold.
Roosevelt used the still image as a symbol for the 7th War Bond Drive. Within weeks, Bill Janoust's strip of film is seen in movie houses across the country. And for the men fighting for their lives on Iwo, Old Glory gives them the hope of victory. But Bill Janoust would never see the fruits of his labor, because 9 days from now, he would be dead. It was supposed to be a quick and decisive operation. But the battle for control of Iwo Jima would drag on for 36 days. It would be the bloodiest in Marine Corps history, in part because it is contained on an inescapable island. Bill Janoust is now off Suribachi. The mountaintop is secure, but the rest of the island is far from it. On Reel 14, Bill's eye for the absurd catches up. This is definitely not Weehawken, New Jersey. By now, the first airfield has been taken. Janoust's footage shows it being repaired and readied for action. The first crippled B-29 will land on it before the battle is even over. But Iwo Jima is still a nightmare of death for both sides. The American forces have control of the island, but can't seem to seal the deal. The reason? The extensive tunnel fortifications. February 27th, D+8. Reel 15 starts with a poignant shot. A silhouette of Marines carrying a dead comrade from the battlefield. Then, caring for the wounded. A corpsman marks an injured Marine as urgent in pencil. Reel 16, more death. A dead Marine is brought by on a litter. The Marines around barely seem to notice anymore. Janoust takes a couple of panoramic shots of the battlefield and the beach he landed on 8 days earlier. And on March 1st, Bill Janoust's footage turns to the endgame of the Battle of Iwo Jima, digging out the last Japanese resistance. Reel 22 starts with dogs. But this isn't whimsical, like the cow on Saipan. These are tracking dogs, used to sniff out the Japanese in caves. Japanese soldiers would hide quietly, and when an American patrol stuck their heads in, they would be cut down by surprise. Hence, the dogs. March 2nd, 1945. Bill Janoust loads up Reel 23. It would be the last reel of film he would ever shoot. It would be telling. On his left hand, the wedding ring Adelaide had given him 17 years earlier. The reel depicts the Marines' cave-by-cave effort to pry out the last Japanese resistance. It shows how dangerous and uninviting these caves are. For 2 days it rained, so Janoust put down his camera. As fate would have it, he would never pick up his camera again.
85啦，85，哎。